Holy Zika solo kills. This is Flight Check Season 2, Episode 33. We're back once again with another episode going all over the banger series of quarterfinals that we had all weekend long. And a little bit of FlyQuest news because we have had some developments in the offseason already, and semifinals haven't even come up. We'll be talking semifinals as well, but there's a lot to go over, so we're going to get straight into it. My name, as always, is Sandy Toes. To my left and my extra left, Noxwar and Curly Double Q. Nox, so a little bit of background for you guys, a little bit of behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. So last night, Nox messages me, and he goes, "Have you watched the DRX EDG series yet?" Now, I don't know, for all of you who don't know so far, I'm on the DRX hype train. Now, I've not only been on the DRX hype train, I've been on the train quietly for, like, the whole season, actually. Actually, maybe a couple years now. I'm, like, randomly a Piosik fan, but I had not watched the series. I had avoided Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, all of it. I had muted the relevant Discords. I had no idea how the series went. The only thing I knew was that EDG won the first game, and then I had accidentally seen a Reddit post that was like the discussion thread for Game 4. So I was like, okay, it at least goes to a Game 4. There's at least a fight. And I tell him, I'm staying up super late. I'm going to watch the rebroadcast, yada, yada, yada. And this man stays up with me just so I can watch Game 2 with somebody else. So before we even get, we're an hour away from the shoutouts portion of the show, I'm already shouting out Nox for coming through in the clutch and being a good friend.
Honestly, that is a homie move.
It was a homie move to let me know that I needed to sit down and make sure I watched this rebroadcast. And boy, did that series deliver. Nox.
My only regret is I wish I could have watched the whole series with you, but unfortunately, I still have work in the morning. So I got to watch Game 2 with you, which was probably one of the most crazy ones to watch.
Oh, yeah. What were your thoughts watching that series as it developed live, knowing what my reactions probably would have been at the time?
So Game 1, I thought you were going to be kind of a little frustrated because I feel like DRX had it in their hands and then EDG started clawing it back and then took it, right? And then that Game 2 happened and DRX is just slowly chipping away at it, boom, 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 and you're like, oh man, okay. And then the play happens, the inhib, and I just immediately, outside of my own story, which I'll very quickly rehash on stream here in a second. My second thought was you, Stanley. It was like, oh no, you're gonna be I wanted to hear your reaction so bad to it, not just because of how it happened, but just because I know you're just a huge DRX fan, right? Mm-hmm. So I was like, I really want to hear what you thought, and then the rest of the series plays out. I'm like, okay, now I especially want to hear your reaction to it, just because I know you're probably gonna be a little down about it. I know you're gonna be a little depressed about it, but then it's oh man, it's coming back, it's happening, and then the reverse sweep completes, and I knew at the end of the day you were going to be content at 4 a.m. when you finally finished watching the series or whatever it ended for you, right? So all that combined, I was like, okay, I want to at least be able to watch Game 2 with you. That's what I really wanted to see, because I knew at least if I wasn't going to be able to watch you watch the rest of the games, I could go to sleep knowing you're going to at least be happy how it ends.
Let me set a bit more of a stage for you. It's 4 a.m. I'm trying not to scream because I don't want to wake my neighbors up. I'm staying up late because I'm on night shifts right now. And Zika kills Scout solo multiple times. And I'm over there doing the whole slamming my fist into my thigh maneuver, just screaming into a pillow. Oh, what a brilliant series. What a brilliant time. Curly, let's hear from you. Let's get some thoughts on the weekend as a whole. I think we're going to move straight into just our quarterfinals recap because I think there's a lot to talk about here. Quarterfinals, lest we forget, the Damwon GENG series that was also incredible. So the 3-2 for GENG, and then of course the other series that occurred, T1's rollover of RNG and JDG walking by Rogue, both 3-0s there. So let me hear from you. Overall impressions of the series this weekend, big surprises, anything that didn't shock you. Let me hear it from you.
I mean, the big thing is, like, it's wild to me that there was no 3-1s. It was both, like, either, bam, decisive victory or we're going all the way. Mm-hmm. Honestly, some quality League of Legends all around. I wasn't able to catch much of the first 2 series, but I caught, like, both of the 5-game bangers wildly enough. And, yeah, I'm so torn coming into semifinals based on everything because, like, things didn't quite go the way I...
Uh-oh.
R.I.P. Curly.
R.I.P.
Here he
Curly.
lies.
The internet might have struck real quick. Nox, maybe you can fill in your thoughts here until we get Curly back on the stream.
Yeah, general thoughts on this weekend. I think probably for me the biggest surprise was T1 RNG. I thought that was going to be, in my opinion, the best series. That or GENG versus DK, and then it was over 3-0. Mm-hmm. Not to say that it was a bad series, but it was so quick.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, fair enough, I guess. Yeah, overall, I think maybe not. I'm trying to think if there's been better quarterfinals than there has been this year. I imagine there has been. Probably 2014, I'd have to say. Mm-hmm. But overall, this was a very good quarterfinals year. I had a lot of fun watching this series, and I'm looking and extremely hyped for semis, especially because I'll be there in Atlanta. I get to watch JDG versus T1. That should be a banger. And then GENG versus DRX. I know GENG's typically had the upper hand over DRX for the whole year, right? But I think DRX has leveled up so much this tournament, and then GENG's had a lot of shaky moments as well. I think that one's shaping up to be a banger as well, right? Mm-hmm. So, overall, this whole weekend coming up, I'm so hyped for.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, ironically, I did see this. I don't know if you all have noticed this, but you've got the exact same. I think Curly has completely.
Curly messaged us on his phone saying the computer took a big L.
All right, so all you guys get is my picture and Nox's wall. So enjoy that. But what's of supreme interest to me is that we have the exact same scenario right now that we had in last year's semifinals, which was a Chinese team up against a Korean team in the semis, and then 2 Korean teams in the other semifinal. And here you are again, JDG up against T1, and then you've got GENG against DRX in the other semi. Oh, there you are. It's interesting.
Yeah, if I lean right.
It's interesting how repeatable history is. It just kind of cycles through.
All right, we're gonna be doing Curly on the phone.
All right, we got Curly on the phone.
All right, we also have phone cam if you can pull it up.
It actually worked perfectly, so you're there.
Let's go, guys. Excellent. Let's go. All right, I will not be able to read Twitch chat from here on out.
Nox, you can lean your head back now. I think you're good.
Oh, true. Hello, I'm back.
Can't wait to do the audio editing for this episode. It's gonna be
a great time. All right, so let me know where you need me to hop back in.
Just give me your thoughts on kind of those first 2 series, the 3-0s. I want to hear from you on those.
Yeah, so 3-0s, a lot more decisive showing from JDG than I really expected against Rogue. I was really hoping that Rogue, being the hope of the West and the way they were showing up on the group stage, would have been able to maybe at least take a game off of JDG, but unfortunately that was not the case. So,
at the very least, by the way, sir. Would you like to explain your pick'ems, by the way, sir?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what it was. I'm right behind Sonica by pure accident, but here's the thing, no matter what, I think I would have been right behind her anyway, because what I meant to do based on my pick'ems last week on air was I wanted to do 3-2 JDG, I wanted to do 3-2 RNG, 3-2 GenG, 3-2 DRX. What I did, however, was all of those same 3-2, but somehow I picked Rogue and T1. Do not know how that happened. Still worked out for the best, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, that random Rogue Hopium kind of hurt me. If I had only had the mistake with my T1 pick'em, I might be tied, if not beating Sonica. But anyway, when it comes to T1 versus RNG, however, ultimately, I'm actually very disappointed because RNG kept showing up when people didn't expect them to, and I was like, RNG is the guy. They're hype. I believed in them, and they finally failed me after, I want to say, 2 years of always hyping them up. I said they'd win MSI last year. I said they'd win MSI this year. I've just always been preying on their success, and finally, all that hopium has run dry. And then also, I realized I need to look at statistics better, because later I saw a better graphic of the historical record against T1, and it does not look good for RNG. So next time they face off, I'm gonna take a better look at the historical record and make the right prediction of T1, and then still be wrong probably.
Well, I was gonna say, to be fair, RNG more recently has had more series and games taken off of T1 than the vice versa. So you wouldn't really be terribly wrong going RNG if you're going that particular stat line either. But yeah, historically T1's been more favored.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. All right, let's hit on this Damwon GENG series, because that was our first banger of the weekend. Nox, why don't you just break it down for us? Kind of what were the overall themes that you were seeing? What can we look for from? What do you think GENG is going to be trying to fix in the series against DRX this upcoming weekend?
Man, the one thing in this series, and I'll lead it into how GENG is going to handle DRX here in a second. The one thing about this series was just the utter, if I may, canyon gap between Peanut and Canyon, right? Canyon was putting on a clinic, and unfortunately, it just wasn't quite enough. So heading into the DRX, Pioshik is also looking completely leveled up. And I think if DRX is going to want to win this, Pioshik is going to have to keep performing at the level that he's been performing at. And then I think Peanut is also going to need to level up a little bit because, I mean, if Zeke is performing anywhere on the level of Chovy, for once it's kind of a neutral, right? And then the bot lanes, I feel, have been very, very even. I think really this whole series coming into next weekend is going to just be Peanut has to be on his A game. If Peanut is not on his A game, if he's even at a B+, I think I can absolutely see this sliding in favor of DRX. Having said that, though, the rest of this squad is so good on GENG as well. And, I mean, the one thing I'm nervous for on DRX's side is Kingin. Kingin at times just was what are you doing, dude? Especially that Game 2 TP when Deft was going for the back door. Anywhere else in that TP is, golden. But, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, at the end of the day, I think this series was complete and utter just jungle dystopia in favor of Canyon, but unfortunately his team wasn't able to support him in the ways that he needed, and because of that, GENG ended up taking the series. Having said that, if Pioshik can play on the level of Canyon or the way that he looked like he was playing against EDG earlier this split, or this quarterfinals, I don't know, man. I haven't even really decided who's going to win this series yet.
Oh, for sure. And I think there's a lot to talk about in regards to DRX. One thing that has to be talked about, as we transition to the EDG DRX series, and Curly, I want to hear your thoughts here. So these Heimerdinger bot lanes, just the oppressive poke that was just coming out of the bot lane. I want to note, Deft and Barrel, using these combos, stomped bot lane so much. They had so much priority, so much push. They poked out Viper and Mako over and over and over again. And the only times Viper ever ended up feeling like a threat was when he was on that Aphelios. I forget if that was Game 4 or Game 5 when he was on the Aphelios, but for me, I felt like there was so much confidence in the DRX bot lane that they could just win the lane phase through this Heimerdinger pick. Do you think this is something that GENG is going to have to ban straight from the get-go? Or because eventually you saw EDG just being like, all right, fine, we will ban the Heimerdinger. We will ban the Ashe. At one point, they banned the Ashe and the Heimerdinger, I believe, instead of letting just the one go through. And that's just when Barrel went to the Karma, I believe.
Yeah.
So, do you think this is a bot lane that we are going to see more of, or is it going to be permabanned for the rest of the tournament?
I think we're probably going to be able to see at least one game out of it is it Saturday or Sunday whenever DRX and GENG
I think it's Sunday.
Maybe Sunday.
Yeah.
But I do believe we'll see it at least once during that, because ultimately, I think GENG, they've been facing off against DRX all season. That's the thing about when you do Civil War, is you kind of get to understand the team you're playing against a bit more. So I think they might be able to come up with a more creative solution than EDG was able to against this Heimerdinger bot lane. And might even be able to outplay it. And then I will say this, you are right about like how commanding the laning phase was. But when I was watching Game 2, when I got the moments I could, mid-game, Barrel was kind of crazy. It kind of gave me Hillsong vibes, where it's like, maybe you need to take a step back, bro. So, like, maybe they could, like, wait for those moments where Barrel's getting a bit too hyphy on the Heimerdinger, going to the Tier 2 turret alone, and suddenly dying and, like, trying to capitalize on those L's. So, like, I think we'll be able to get at least one game of it. It's going to be funny because it's not something I ever would have predicted to be in the meta at all. And of course, it's the LCK pulling this off, because I think they've got the craziest drafts I've ever seen at international tournaments sometimes.
I'm trying to remember. There's been only one other team that has taken Heimerdinger so far at Worlds, right? Trying to find the...
I'll tell you what. I'll look it up, Sandy. But I want to ask you, because I know you messaged me last night during Game 2 when he was on the feeding streak.
Yeah. Okay.
As Freak kindly called it. So give us your thoughts on this bot lane, especially with you being the DRX fanboy here.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, Barrel's pulled it out 4 times now. Sven pulled it out once. I think actually it was the first time we saw it was from Cloud9, and then Kyria also pulled it out. In the series against RNG, interestingly enough. So it's pretty viable, I think. So, I mean, my thoughts are on this bot lane is I don't think it is cheese, you know? I don't think it is like a dumb, silly thing that people are picking. I think it's a legitimate bot lane that is viable. Now, you know, is it a tanky engage support? No, it's not. But you have to be drafting tank and engage elsewhere on the map, through your top lane, through your jungle, stuff like that. But for me, the benefits that you get out of this bot lane with the insane amount of poke, you know, and we saw it with the Ashe Heimerdinger and also with the Ezreal Heimerdinger, because that's what EDG ended up doing. They said, all right, fine, we're banning Ashe. And DRX was just like, all right, fine, we're picking Ezreal and we're running the Heimerdinger anyway, and we're still going to win. I think the teams have to find a way to combat the poke, or they have to be super aggressive early on and get the jungle ganks. Peanut has to come down early. Chovy's going to have to roam early. And you look for the 4-man dive. You look for the 3-man gank. Because you have to get... If you're going into this Heimerdinger bot lane, in my opinion, you have to get yourself ahead of them early so that they are the ones on the back foot. Because otherwise, they will just poke you out of lane, maintain bot prio, maintain that Drake priority, and you're just going to wind up having a bad time. Because Deft just absolutely slammed lane over and over and over with these picks. I'm expecting, if the Heimer is up, I'm expecting DRX to slam that pick in almost immediately. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a banger series. If we're all done recapping quarterfinals, I think we can move on to discussing semis. I don't know about you guys.
I think I'm good with that too.
Sweet. All right, let's do it. Semifinals preview. 2 big matchups. JDG and T1, who both 3-0'd their respective series. I would argue T1 with the slightly tougher opponent. And then DRX and GENG both coming off of 3-2 victories on the other side of the bracket. Right now, if you go to Pick'ems on LoL Esports, it looks like T1 is 82% picked over JDG, and GENG is 84% picked over DRX. Nox, you were kind of putting some feelers out there a bit earlier that you're actually not feeling too bad about DRX's chances in this series. So where do you stand on the DRX GENG best of 5?
I think at the end of the day, I still am leaning towards GENG for the exact reasons I was explaining earlier, right? Mm-hmm. I think if Pyosha can perform, it doesn't necessarily matter because the team around GENG is, I think, in my opinion, just better than DRX. Because you look at Canyon, who was just having these absolute monster games, right? And it still wasn't enough. Mm-hmm. And as good as Pyosik has been, I don't think he's better than Canyon. Yeah. Canyon's like number 1, Pyosik's like number 2 or number 3, depending. Currently at his level of play, right? Right. So I think I'm still going GENG on this, but I think the level of difference here is so minute that I can see a world where DRX absolutely just pops off and they take it. But there's more compounding factors that I'm having to give to GENG in this particular scenario.
Curly, welcome back to the
land of computers.
To the land of computers.
Yeah, we're back in computer world.
How are you feeling about this GENG DRX series?
It's so hard for me to figure out how I'm feeling because I am riding the DRX hype train more and more after each stage of this tournament, and it's crazy because before watching yesterday's series, I probably would have been able to confidently pick GENG, just they're gonna win it all. But with Peanut looking weaker than Canyon and just DRX being able to pull off the first 4-1 I've ever seen at Worlds, things get a bit more up in the air for me. I think there's a lot of people who still are going to have bias towards GENG. They really believe in the Church of Chovy. They really think they are the team. I think, man, it's just, I think I'm just so hard behind Zika and Def now that I really, DRX has got to be my favorite for this. I think it's they've shown to me more creative draft styles than GENG, which I think creative draft is a major part of what is winning a good amount of these games at Worlds right now. And so if you can pull that off, if you can be like, haha, I thought about something you never did that you don't know how to prepare for, gives you a huge advantage. And they've shown they can execute some interesting drafts and switch it up on the spot. And so I think that's going to be something that's going to make it really easy for them to come out on top when everything's all said and done at the end of the day. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
That's fair. I think for myself, the tough thing about predicting this series is that on paper, GENG has the names and they have the historical performance. They have the LCK Summer Championship. They have all these things. And then on the other hand, you have DRX, who, like Curly mentioned, literally the 4-1 series that should have been Deft should have been able to backdoor that, as just a really unlucky timing on the inhibitor, unlucky on the King in TP, not King in the Flandre TP. I think, and if we look at the quality of opponent beaten as well, EDG defending world champions, Damwon, a team that I don't think many people would have had as like strong finalist contenders, maybe like semi-finalist contenders, but not necessarily like, oh, this is a top 3, top 2 team in the world. So with all that said, we're going DRX, baby. It's a 3-2. Another 3-2 DRX prediction. You have to keep the faith alive. This is Def's last dance. What else is he going to give us than an amazing series, more incredible AD carry performances, and Zika is going to keep performing. Did you see this man on the Silas? Oh my word. Breaking ankles, destroying mid laners. He ripped apart Scout so many times in lane phase during this series. And I fully believe that they can stand up and take down GENG. A team that, if I'm being honest, up until playing Damwon, I had concerns about the strength of their victories. Having to play Flying Oysters and 100 Thieves in group stage. Having to play an RNG that really looked wrecked by their COVID symptoms on the final days. And then, I would expect GENG, if they are what people say they are, to have taken down Damwon in like a 3-1. I don't think that would have been too much to ask for. I expected the T1 RNG series to be closer than the GENG Damwon series. I think DRX has a real shot here. I don't think it's the 1585 that people are giving it on Pick'ems. I do think it's
definitely not 1585.
Yeah, I think it is a bit more of like a 40-60, 45-55. But I think there is a legitimate chance here, and I am going to be going DRX with my call. All right, JDG T1 on the other side of the bracket. Big match. A lot of people calling for T1 here, especially after the RNG slam. It's interesting because JDG did not really have to show a lot in their quarterfinal against Rogue. So, Nox, I'm curious to hear from you. Is JDG actually legit, or did they just kind of like beat a team that they were expected to beat, and we still don't really know what to expect from them? How are you feeling there?
I think, we got a pretty good idea with JDG playing versus, who was it? DRX, right?
Yeah.
In groups? Yeah, I think we got a pretty good idea of JDG playing versus
They played Damwon
Or no.
in groups, yeah.
Damwon. Point still stands. Like, we got a good idea of them actually getting pushed, right? And
Yeah.
they still beat Damwon 2-1. And I think even that one loss, I'm personally kind of chalking up to draft diff a little bit. They entered the draft a tad bit, in my opinion. I don't know what it is about this JDG team. They may not have the cleanest plays ever, but their clutch factor and their ability to just hit the freaking go button when it matters is just insane. I don't think I've seen any other team in the world be able to pull off the just sudden collapse on them. Go. Eat them alive. Done. Pincer. Gone. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, the 3v5 turnaround at that Dragon fight against Damwon in that game 1 in groups was just utterly mind-blowing. Like, and they consistently, like, maybe not always to that exact level, because that one was just absurd, but they've pretty much shown in every single one of their games that they can just turn around in an instant. And so, having said that, I think I'm actually, like, I know everyone's picking T1, but I think I'm going JDG this series. T1 is a good team, and I've heard, like, a lot of good scrim rumors about them, but I've yet to see JDG outside of when they get drafted. And so, that'll be my one stipulation, is if T1's going to win this series, they're going to have to draft way better than JDG is going to. But otherwise, I'm going JDG because they're just utterly insane. I see them winning this whole thing at this point. Having said that, though, I really want to see Faker win it again. I really, really do. I really am truly cheering for T1 here, but I just don't see a world where T1 is beating them unless they actually have major draft diff going into these games.
Yeah, I mean, what's really interesting for me about the series is that, I mean, I put JDG as my crystal ball pick, and I still very much believe that they can win this series. You do have to look at things like, if you're going to do a little narrative-based analysis, Faker, I believe, has never lost Worlds in NA. I believe he's always won.
That is true. That is true.
So maybe this is his time again. But I still think JDG, look, they were the #1 LPL team for a reason. They managed to handle their group pretty convincingly. If Rogue had given them some trouble, I would have maybe started leaning T1. But it was just, it was never looked like Rogue really had a shot.
The most trouble they had with Rogue was Larson putting on the biggest carry pants he's ever put on, and it still didn't matter.
Exactly.
Yep.
So I'm going against the grain on this one too, I think. JDG is my pick. Curly, round us out. Where are you landing here on this one?
For this one, I think what I'm really going to be looking at is Yagao versus Faker and Kanavi versus Owner, the jungle mid matchup, because I think respectively, like, that's kind of what shined through in both of their series. Like, Yagao was actually, to me, not flexing nearly as much as I think he should have on Larson. Maybe that's me not respecting Larson's ability, or maybe it's just the case, or maybe that's just not the strategy JDG approached with. Because, like you said, Larson put on the biggest carry pants he's ever put on. Didn't matter. Kanavi, however, in every game, really putting in work and, like, making sure JDG can come out on top. And then actually my favorite thing is how, like, Rogue was doing Nami Lucian both first 2 games, and then in game 3 JDG is like, you know what, anything you can do, I can do better, and just flexed on him that way. So JDG really looking strong to me. I am definitely biased as they are my crystal ball pick. I will say this, T1 3-0 in RNG has me a bit nervous, because if you can 3-0 an LPL team, you're really feeling yourselves. Maybe I just overhype RNG, or maybe T1 is really ready to flex and, like, show their stuff. I do think this is going to be another 3-2 matchup. I do think Faker has, like, just put on its game time. But I still think it's going to be JDG. JDG 3-2 is my final. Both games or series this weekend, though, are just going to be so fun.
Oh, for sure. All right. Well, that is semifinals. Knox, you're headed to Atlanta.
Yes, sir.
This weekend to watch it. So watch out for Knox on the stream. Where's it being held? It's in a big stadium as opposed to Hulu Theater kind of deal, right?
I almost want to. Why am I blanking on it right now? I want to say it's the Atlanta Falcons Stadium, isn't it?
Well, there you go.
Or no, I feel like I'm wrong on that. Hold on. World Semifinals.
Totally don't remember, but all right.
State Farm Arena, Atlanta, Georgia. Is that the Atlanta Falcons Stadium?
No idea. I know no NFL stadiums. I know hockey.
We're
arena.
learning on the stream.
It's for the Atlanta Hawks. So 21,000 capacity stadium. So
Pretty big.
yeah,
Huge.
it's pretty good. All right. Let's talk a little FlyQuest news. We actually have some stuff to cover. Roster, rumblings.
We have fly content? What?
I know. Believe it or not, this is a FlyQuest related podcast. I know that's been hard to believe
Hold
recently.
on. Are you
Yes, that organization on your shirt.
these guys?
Those guys.
All right.
I'm not wearing those guys. I'm wearing these guys who are playing right now. Unlike FlyQuest, not playing right now. So, couple big news tickets. So we are now officially up to 30% of the roster is on the way out or already gone. Kumo, Diamond, and not officially, but probably Johnson. So Kumo and Diamond. Kumo had a FlyQuest is letting me explore my options tweet. FlyQuest had the official thank you Diamond post.
Don't forget Tomo.
If Tomo's on there too, then we're at 40%.
But Toma's being allowed to explore options.
Okay,
right
allowed
now.
to explore.
That one I missed. All right, so 40% then. Tomo's being allowed to explore options. And then the other one that has not been announced or any kind of thing in any way, except through the global contract database, is Johnson. Johnson has been removed from the global contract database under FlyQuest's section. So presumably he will not return. If Tomo also transfers orgs this offseason, we will have 2 new 80 carries joining the team this winter. And this is interesting. We're still not quite into our off-season podcasting rumor mill, let's do some armchair GMing. But we've got probably like 10, 15 minutes here. And I kind of want to start diving into it a little bit because I think it's important to acknowledge this and that I think this is really changing up the composition of the academy team because you've only got Yuji and Spirax remaining at this point if all those guys leave. And then AD carry is a critical position on your LCS team, especially if we see another meta similar to this past season's, where you kind of have to play through your AD carry. So, Nox, I know you were the first one to spot the Johnson GCD news. So, I want to hear your thoughts on, if that is for sure, what it means for the team, what it means for Johnson, and where we might be looking down the line.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I was not expecting Johnson to leave. I know Johnson's kind of I don't want to say controversial, but he's a debated topic, right? I know a lot of people have a lot of opinions on him, saying, he needs to go. There are other better AD carries you can pick up for the team. And then you have some people saying, I thought he was fine. He works well with Afromu, and I thought they were a solid bot lane. I fall more under the former. I thought Afro and Johnson had a rather good year. I think at one point during the summer they peaked as a top 2 bot lane. I really had no huge issues with Johnson. I thought he did his job very, very well. So seeing this news, I was kind of surprised, honestly. I was like, wow, especially considering his contract wasn't up until next year. Part of me makes me think that this was either Johnson saying, hey, I would like out of the contract, and that's probably more personal reasons that I can't extrapolate on. I don't know. That's him. Or there's someone that FlyQuest saw and was like, we need this person. We need to get them on the team ASAP. It is exactly what we need. So those are probably like my 2 trains of thought of why Johnson has departed the team. At the end of the day, though, I think he's still really, really good. I think he should still absolutely be in the LCS. Any mid to bottom tier team, if you need an AD carry, you should immediately be going to him. And who knows with how this offseason is going, because I know a lot of teams are downsizing. Maybe even some of the past top tier teams should look at him. I do think he is that good if you get him a support that he works well with. So, having said that, I guess if he comes back, cool. I'm happy with it. But I think considering he's been removed off the GCD, I'm not expecting him to come back. And so I will say thank you, Johnson, for the past 2 years. I know 2021 was a bit rough, but I thought you had a stellar year this year, and I hope wherever you end up at is awesome.
Curly, where are you on the potential Johnson departure? Are we sad for him, excited for the future? How are you?
Definitely a mix of both, because Johnson this season really looked like one of the most stable parts of FlyQuest for me, actually. Him and Afromu just consistently performing during the summer, I think, being a very big part of our success. And so it is sad for me for that to go, but at the same time, I am a guy who always likes opportunity for change, recognizes that sometimes you need to switch out the parts. So if Johnson and FlyQuest have decided that it's not, our paths need to separate, I hope that it's best for both. I hope Johnson finds a good home on another LCS team. I think he does deserve to stay in the LCS. But also, I hope that with the expectation that we're going to be looking for a replacement, we get really, make sure we put that extra money we might be able to get from the Florida Panthers investment into making sure that this is a really good investment in our future, So it's always going to be that mixed emotion of hate to see them go, but love to see what comes next.
Yeah, I think for me, it definitely felt like Johnson stepped back up after the reunion with Afromu, which was great to see, and it was what we expected to see, that synergy to come back, and him to be a top 5 AD carry in the league. So that was good and what we needed. I think, and Knox, I know these are discussions we've had in the past. If 2023 is the year to really slam the chips on the table and say, this is the championship roster, I do wonder what the move is here if we are looking for a premier AD carry that we can say will definitively be top 3 in the role in LCS. And from there, are further changes to be expected? I think fan sentiment would say yes. I think there are certain parts that people want to remain. You have other... I mean, you've got the... if you look in our Discord and there's a wide range of opinions. You have some people who want, to literally drop everyone except Takui. You've got all kinds of, to keep most of the roster and just replace Johnson. So you've got a lot of opinions on how to tackle this offseason. I think if you are going to make changes, I would hope that it's not a full transition, like a full, keep Took, drop everyone, but that's a 1, maybe 2 person swap that are clear upgrades, not just side grades, and not even like prospects. I think the time for you've got prospects in your academy team. That's where the prospects go to develop. You've got prospects in Yuji. You've got a prospect in Spirax. So fill up that academy team with more. Fill up an amateur team with even more prospects that you can really turn into the next Danny, into the next JoJo, and their contract is with FlyQuest and not 100 Thieves or Evil Geniuses or Team Liquid or, God forbid, TSM. So what I'm hoping for and what I expect is at least one more change. I'm assuming Takui's job is safe. But beyond that, I could not tell you where that other change is coming to. I'm excited to see what happens. But of course, you need to make sure that the synergies are there, the communication can be there, the same mindset about the way the game is going to be played is there, and all the other things that go into crafting a roster. All right, any further thoughts about some of the roster rumors? Actually, maybe quick knocks from you as our resident academy expert. If it's Kumo, Tomo, and Diamond all gone, and you're really rebuilding that academy roster, I mean, what are you hoping to see to fill in those 3 spots?
I'll be honest, I don't know. I haven't really looked much in the top lane section of things. I'll get back to you on that one. For the bot lane, though, there are a wide variety of AD carries that I would love to see FlyQuest put on their academy team. Array to Wixie to Sketch, you name it. There's plenty of amateur AD carries right now who are performing and absolutely deserve a slot on academy, in my opinion. And I can go into more details on that whenever we get into Armchair GM stream if you want, but take your pick. It is not hard to grab a good AD carry right now that is at least academy level right now. Support-wise, I think I'm a huge advocate for Plux. He was on Cincinnati Fear earlier this year. Amateur team who basically, at least in the open qualifiers, did very, very, very good. Looked very solid. And I think is someone that you could continue to help develop and grow into a great up-and-coming support. Because if I recall correctly, I believe Plux is only 19, which he still has his hands, if I've been told anything by anyone in OE Cord. So that should be a good sign. So yeah, I would say, at least for the time being, I would love to see a roster into next year. Off the top of my head, I need to look at like amateur rosters more and academy rosters, see who's shifting around a little more. I've got everything in mind for what I want to see for the actual team. Academy-wise, I need to look a little bit more, but for now, I would like to see mystery top laner, because I need to look more. UG, Spirax. Ideally, I think Wixie would probably be my ideal AD carry that I'd like to see in Academy for us. And then I'd like to see Plux.
There you go.
That's just a lot of X. Spirax, Wixie, Plux.
Just call them, just call the Academy team Team X, I like it. There's a lot of, I think there could be some good content, some good marketing that comes out of that. If there's any FlyQuest staff in the chat, take notes. We're providing you free ideas, here
for content.
When
it comes to other roster things, is with the expected hole of Johnson and ADC, what I'm really hoping is we pick up a really solid academy player. I'm thinking The first one comes to mind is Jan. I don't know if him and Ayla are a duo that need to stay together or if he can pop off on his own. Also, hypothetically, if it were possible, I would love to potentially poach Luger from CLG. I would really like to see Fly Luger. I think that'd be pretty fun.
Could be interesting.
Those are two just ideas.
Oh, for sure. Manifesting them into the LCS ecosystem.
Oh, one last Academy or possible Academy AD carry I'd like to throw out is Azog. Azog has been cracked in Champions Queue this Worlds, in my opinion. I think he's been really, really good. So
I think there's
just
some good
another name that I'm throwing out
there in that Champions Queue ecosystem. All right, one other piece of FlyQuest news. We did have the Smash Boys going out to Vegas this past weekend for the Ludwig Smash Invitational. Nox, give me the lowdown on what some of this drama was going on. I don't think Jmook or Kadoran were part of the drama, but I'd love to hear about what was actually going on back there behind the scenes, if you know a bit more than I do.
Very, very quick context setting. So this drama was between Leffen and HBox. And in the past 2 years, I don't believe HBox has taken a game off of Leffen ever whenever they met in like bracket stage. It's just Leffen has always had his number. And so finally, HBox finally took a set off of him and advanced on to the next round. And immediately after the match is done, where the main broadcast couch was, Leffen comes over and he's like, I want to talk about rule setting. And like Ludwig and the guys are like, sure, I guess. And he's like, it is absolutely unacceptable how HBox plays. It is not entertaining. It is not, like the rules need to be changed. It is unacceptable how HBox plays. And to give you an idea, HBox plays Jigglypuff, which is a character that typically likes to float around the map, just kind of like being hard to touch. There's nothing wrong with this from everything that I've listened to from other Smash streamers or Smash players. But there are actual genuine rules in place saying you cannot stall the game. Because if you are up a stock or you are up in percentage and the game ends, then you technically win that game, right? Or that round. So there's rules in place to make sure you cannot just stall. And basically what Leffen was doing was accusing HBox of stalling. And pretty much Kadoran was sitting here VOD reviewing it going like, there's nothing happening in here to indicate that HBox is stalling. Like, it's just how he plays. It's just, he forces you to come into him and fight him. And so it was very funny, like, watching Leffen sit here on, like, literally on the broadcast desk going like, this is not acceptable, this is not okay. And Ludwig was arguing back with him saying, you literally cannot be doing this right now. Like, you may actually be having legitimate points, but you can't just come on after you had a loss complaining about how you lost, and then saying and demanding that there need to be rule changes. That's not how this works. If you did this like a week later with like someone else like backing you up, that's a different story. But you're just coming off salty right now, and now it's like completely ruining the whole point of this argument. So I thought it was very funny. Kadoran was kind of roasting Leffen a little bit, saying like, "No, dude, like there's no stalling here. It's just how HBox plays." Like, I get it. HBox gets in your head. That's the kind of person he is. Not even the player. That's just the person he is. If you've seen HBox whenever he takes games off of people, like literally against Jmook, he threw a freaking chair, man. Like, that's who HBox is. So
he's a passionate guy. This is
yeah. So at the end of the day, that was kind of the drama, and it was just funny, like watching Ludwig on the main broadcast, just like sitting here, like shutting Leffen down, being like, "No, you can't do this. Like, you have no idea how bad this makes you look right now." And going through the Smash subreddit, everyone's like roasting Leffen too. Like, come on, dude, you can't be saying this right now.
Man, tough. In terms of performance for the FlyQuest gang, a 5th place for Jmook, and I believe Kadoran, technically he what? 13th. Yeah. So top 16s for both and a top 8 for Jmook. And hey, look, considering the quality of the bracket, just the insane amount of high-level players that were there, who was there, I mean, you've already heard some of the names: Leffen, H-Box. I believe Amsa was there. Zane was there too. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, Zane won the whole thing.
Yeah, Zane won the whole thing. I'm pulling up the.
Zane, Hungrybox, Leffen, Wizrobe, Jmook, Asthma,
Yeah.
Mango, IBDW,
stacked
X,
roster, bro.
Mango, yeah.
Pipsqueak, Kadoran, Magi, Joshman. Most people were saying, and Kadoran himself was saying this is probably one of the most stacked Smash Invitationals that there has been in a long, long time. This was a very high-quality tournament. And Kadoran was even saying on a stream, he had never seen so many people, and I quote, down bad after losing their match. Because apparently, in other major Smash Invitationals, it's kind of all right, whatever, I'm out. I'm going to go hang around, have a couple drinks. But apparently, anyone and everyone, over half the competitors after they lost their matches were really sad and depressed, is what Kadoran was saying.
Dang.
So I think a lot of people were trying really, really hard at this tournament. This was one of the most sweaty Smash tournaments that there ever been, apparently.
Well, there you go. So I mean, in that case, it truly hats off to both Jmook and Kadoran for their performances over the weekend. I don't think a 5th place or even a 13th is anything to be sneezed at. That's great for who was there. And it just really showed the quality of the players that we've got under the org right now. And I know that there are many more good things to come from these guys. All right. Well, I think we've run through all our topics for the night. Do you guys have anything else before we head to the closer?
I mean, also related to Smash, just real. If you look at both Kadoran and Jmook's Twitter pages, and of course the FlyQuest Twitter page, the photo ops from this weekend, bro, just absolutely amazing. Really good.
Yeah.
So huge fan of that.
Totally. Knox, how about you? Anything?
I don't think so. I'm just hyped to be in Atlanta this coming week and hanging out with all the 100 Talk Pod peep.
It's going to be a good time. All right. Well, in that case, thank you, everybody, for tuning into tonight's episode of Flight Check. As Knox alluded, semis are Saturday and Sunday for World. Am I back?
Guess who's back?
My internet died. All right.
My
Looks like the stream is back. My internet died. Oh boy, sad. Rough
all
times.
Right, you are back though. Yeah. All right, let's wrap up the show, right?
Let's wrap up the show. Hey, good timing for that internet to just completely putz out of me. It hasn't done that in months. All right, Worlds, two of your last 3 chances to see international play this year, to see any kind of professional League of Legends play this year. So, sure to follow the show on Twitter for all our reactions and thoughts. You can catch the show at Flight Check Crew, myself at SantosDB, Knox at Knoxor with 2 R's, and Curly at Curly_QQ_. Make sure to hop into the Discord as well, where all kinds of esports discussion and otherwise takes place. If you missed any part of the episode, the VOD will be up on YouTube tonight or tomorrow morning. And if you're watching that and would like to catch the show live, we do broadcast the episode usually every Monday night, usually at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here at twitch.tv/FlightCheckCrew. All right, Knox, any final notes, shout-outs, or plugs before we wrap up?
Shout out to Ludwig. He spent a crap ton of money on the Ludwig Invitational, had a bunch of sponsors back out on him. Mr. Beast came in, saved the day, sponsored it. So they were shelling out all of his chocolate and whatnot, which was kind of funny because, yeah. But yeah, banger event. I didn't get to watch and see everything, but just shout out to Ludwig. It was a fun event.
Nice. Curly, how about yourself?
I'm going to give 2 shout-outs. Number 1, I already gave the shout-out on Twitter, but huge shout-out to David Shynock. He's a TikTok League of Legends content creator who really showed that if you put your love and passion into something, you can get places. Because after 2 years of just constantly making LCS and Worlds content, he got to be a very major part of like the New York City experience for Worlds, having like press pass, hosting one of the events that go along with it, like just big things. So like, go follow him, check out his stuff. He's a really awesome guy. And also, the second shout out is to Sonica and the FlyQuest team for trying to revive community events, bringing things back in. I didn't get to be along for any of the watch parties that were in the Discord, but I like seeing that they are happening, and I like the life slowly being brought back into FlyQuest, and I can't wait for it to just keep bringing it back up, developing the community. It's a big thing.
Vouch for that last one for sure.
There you go. All right. Mine is going to be Nox again for making sure I watched all of that DRX EDG series. And then it's also going to be to the quarterback controversy that's currently brewing in New England, because Mac Jones is already not showing that he has what it takes to lead this offense right now. Throwing a pick already in this quarter. Will Bailey Zappi come in? Who knows? Tune in next time to find out.
All I know is I've been happy with Geno Smith so far. I had like no expectations, and I've just been pleasantly surprised.
Must be nice.
Yes.
And
football.
On that note, we will be back sometime next week to discuss semifinals and previewing finals as well. So for now, I'll just say stay safe out there. Don't forget to hit the head on the nail, and we'll see you all very, very soon. Adios, everybody.
Have a good one, guys.
Peace, y'all.